Actually helps that it's your comments today, not mine, because I lost my voice. Boker Tov, everybody. Good morning and welcome. Today we're doing lesson 37. This is the very final session of Veyodayta Moskva. I'm not talking you are today, because I'd like to know your thoughts, comments, feedback, reflections. Was it too deep? Was it too shallow? Was it too slow? Was it too fast? Was it too slow? Was it too fast? How did it impact you? How did it inspire you? Your thoughts, I'd love to hear.
For me personally, it actually made me reflect more.
Start again.
Yes. So for me personally, this is Marty, it impacted me that I now reflect more on the fact that Havaya, the infinite God, is always there. No matter what you see, what you think you see, the infinite God is in control of everything. And it's, sometimes you forget, and then you have to stop, think, and you come back to that. So that's kind of what it brought me to.
So you find yourself catching yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Stopping, catching myself, and saying, it's going to be fine.
So you realize that you fall back into a klippa mindset by default.
Sure.
And you're conscious enough
Well, you have
to catch yourself and say, one sec, there's more than meets the eye.
My godly soul has to take over, push that aside.
So in that case, how is this going to last? How is that ability to catch yourself going to last?
What I've done before is I go back to my notes and looked at it. And now, of course, I lost my book, so I can't find those notes. But, perhaps having your book, I'll be able to go back and do that. Because I like to do that. And I do that, even with Tanya. I like to go back and look at my notes on that because I've taken a separate book and I got notes on it.
That's great. So I want to encourage you to know that learning Chassidus is not a book that you read and you're done. Absolutely. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
It's a book that you read, and that's when the journey starts.
Exactly.
Right. That's a beautiful comment there. Thank you very, very much, Marty. Rob, you want to share anything?
For me, it's an aspiration. We have the foundation. We've learned it. I accept it intellectually, but it's an aspiration to live it. And I think it's a constant struggle. And it's easy for the little things. You injure yourself. It's a minor injury. You wonder, where's the good in it? But the real test is when it is a very major, dark cloud, and you try to find the kavaya in that. That's the real test. Because for most of us, we sweat the little stuff. And it's easy to say, I'm no longer going to sweat the little stuff. But the real test is when there's a big problem. But I have a question for Marty.
I just want to comment on that you say that you're not there yet. And that's a beautiful place to be. We say in Chassidus that Yediyas HaMachla Chatzi Refuah. The identification of the illness is halfway to the cure. In other words, when you know what the problem is, you're well on the way to getting there. So it's beautiful that you're able to identify, and instead of saying, I don't understand what you're talking about, you say, look, I do understand what you're talking about. Can't fully accept it yet. Maybe I can understand it, but I can't feel it. And it's an aspiration. It's a journey. It's a pathway which I encourage you to use in your meditation before davening, especially when you get the book format and you can review it as, I divided into 30 days of short meditations. So if you break it up into small palatable pieces, then I hope that this might be something that you could become conscious of. And I want you to know, for me, it's also an aspiration. Because on the one hand, I teach it, right? And I live it. But I can't say that I live it in every part of my life. There are parts of my life where I'm like Marty. And there are parts of my life where I'm like you. Where I say, I still, I don't, you really have to hold on for dear life. It's like holding on to a branch in the hurricane and saying, look, I don't know what's going on, but I'm holding on for dear life.
That's a great analogy. I understand. That's true.
I'm hoping I'm trusting that eventually this is going to make sense eventually. But you got to hold on to your faith with every fiber of your being.
And I guess I've been fortunate because I don't have any major, what Rob was talking about, the major source. I haven't had that, thank God.
You should never be tested.
Exactly. So perhaps, I've been fortunate in that regard.
And Rabbi, before we move on to whatever it is we're going to move on to, I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank you. One, for teaching the course. B, for teaching it with the enthusiasm that you teach it. It's very catchy. We've all had teachers, professors who taught, but they lack the enthusiasm, and it's hard to inspire. So we appreciate the fact that you inspire. And last, we really thank you, those of us who had the opportunity to read the draft and be able to comment, because you've made us feel like we're a part of that final product. And when we see it, when we read it, when it's sitting on our bookshelf, we'll look at it not necessarily as something that you just did, but something that the community did. And for that, I personally am grateful, and I know that others are as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. I just studied in the Talmud that much I've learned from my teachers, more I've learned from my colleagues, but more than anyone I've learned from my students. So for me to be able to write the book while I'm teaching it was wonderful, really wonderful. And it's, for me, the rise of a new dawn, because the more I teach now, the more guided I am in selecting works that I want to write so that I can leverage the teaching into the writing, which is something very exciting to me. So I definitely feel that you didn't just edit the manuscript, you actually helped write it. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. What was your question to Marty?
Well, I have a question to Marty. I wanted Marty, in all the years he's come here, he dutifully takes notes. He listens, he writes, he puts it all in this book of his, and now he loses the book.
No, I lost one book.
Where's the chavaya in your having lost that book?
I'd like to comment on that if I may. Marty says he doesn't know, but I want to comment on that. Quick comment. Welcome to Daniel Geiker, Elaine Collins, Winston. Melissa Cohen says, great meditation class last night. Thank you. Ed Hochman, good morning. Corina, I lost my voice last night. I was at a bar mitzvah with music that was way too loud, so forgive me. Michael Weingart, good morning. Good afternoon, and Chodesh Tov. Michael, where are you on earth that it is afternoon? And good. Okay, great. So my response to your question. Here's the reason why Marty lost his book.
This is the problem.
What?
Because he stole it. Thanks, Warren.
So here's what I think. I want to remind you that the Alter Rebbe sat in jail for 53 days. Why? Because the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid of Mezrich, his teachers, appeared to him in an apparition while he was in jail, and they said to him that the reason you're in jail is because in heaven they are opposed to the release of your teachings of Tanya with 53 chapters. So in heaven they're debating whether you should be allowed to do this or not. When finally it was released, it was a sign that not just the Moscow court, but the heavenly court had approved the release of these documents. And that was the celebration of Yutes Kislev, of the 19th day of Kislev, which is the Alter Rebbe's release from prison, which is when we celebrate the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, because in heaven they endorsed it. When the Alter Rebbe wrote the book of Tanya, it's called the book of Beinanim, the book of intermediaries, in between Jews. But he also wrote another book, the book of Tzaddikim. We don't have the book of Tzaddikim. It was burned. There was a fire in the desk of the Alter Rebbe, and it burned the only manuscript. Why was it burned? The Alter Rebbe explained, because we were not worthy of that. Or somebody explained that we were not worthy of that text. That's why. In other words, we're so far removed from being a tzaddik, it's not anything that we need access to. I believe that maybe Marty lost the book. Maybe because in heaven they feel you might not be. They want to know if you're worthy. I mean, it's a bit of a challenge to say this to you on video, but I guess.
was just about to say something so nice about it. Forget it. You
Comment
lost that.
compliment recalled, right? No, but I say this to all of us that when these kind of things happen, just like the book of the Alter Rebbe that was lost in a fire, whenever we lose a book or a manuscript is a heavenly gift, even if it's your own notes on divine wisdom. And maybe you're being challenged, maybe you're being tested, and that's not only a question for you, it's a question for all of us, right? To figure out if we truly are worthy of this. I have to tell you, the challenges that I faced in writing this book were tremendous. I cannot describe to you what it felt like at 4:30 in the morning to have waking up at 4:30 and knowing that I have 3 hours ahead of me to write, and then hearing that sound of a baby's cry. And I take the one baby on my lap, and then hearing another baby's cry, and I have a second baby on my lap, and I'm literally typing with two babies on my lap. One I'm feeding a bottle to while I'm typing, and then the other one starts to chew my fingers. Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, this is impossible. What's the Havaya here? And then I say to myself, I think that I have to plow through. I think that there's a lot of darkness and there's a lot of klippa that's blocking the publication of this work, because I think it's that important. And I feel that the darkness means that I have to increase my efforts, not decrease them. To increase my effort, not throw in the towel. And that's what I say to you, Marty. When you lose the book, say, you know what? I'm doing it anyways. Stop me if you can.
And actually, I've had it printed out now, so I can read it.
Well, God willing, you'll get a hard copy as well.
So what I was going to say to you is, we've been together a little over 5 years.
5 years.
And I have seen in the 5, this is the nice thing.
Well, let me turn you around.
No, I'm not telling other people. In spite of what you just said, in the 5 years, I've seen you grow. I really have seen you grow in confidence, in your ability to connect with us and to elevate us much more than I think of when I met you in 2016, who you were and who you are now. I mean, you're so genuine, so strong, and such an inspiring teacher and person. So that's.
Did you bring an apple?
Thank you.
I was going to take it back because you.
Thank you, Marty.
That must be a really challenge on your part, trying to elevate us. What you're doing.
Well, some of us are heavier than others.
Oh, he's really giving everybody zingers. What about Rob Zinger?
So I just want to say to the folks that, I'm actually going to New York today to launch the book tonight, God willing, at the yard site commemoration of our grandfather. And I'm looking forward to thinking through the path forward. I've spent so much effort in channeling my resources into publication that I'm ready now to think about which direction I want to move forward. I know what I want to do. I just need to figure out the path. So I'm going to be thinking about that. God willing, I'll be back in a couple of days and take it from there. But I thank you very much for that very meaningful comment. I do feel very empowered and excited by your support to know that I can do this together. Andy, Martin, you have any comments, thoughts, reflections?
I want to get what the question was asked.
Oh, I was just asking your thoughts and reflections on the discourse.
Veyodayta.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, 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 very similar to what Rob said. Intellectually, I understand, I hear. At times, it's amazing, just like in Indian, sometimes the spirituality is stronger than others. And it just got more meaning. And other times, I understand it, but I just don't get it. I just don't feel it. And that analogy you used by hanging on to a branch.
That's a good one.
You like?
I think that's to be significant.
That's significant.
I think it's
Yeah, I think you got your own little hurricane.
something analogy that in the air, a branch, in a storm.
In case people didn't hear what Warren just said, he's sitting in the back. He said that he related to what Rob said, that he can accept this in his mind, but his heart is really struggling. So you feel challenged in a very meaningful way. And I wonder When was the last time you felt spiritually challenged? Think about that for a moment, right? When was the last time we felt challenged in general? You know, we get financially challenged, we get medically challenged. But when was the last time your soul was challenged? What an incredible experience. You feel like you're facing your soul. What was that?
Every day.
Oh, you do feel challenged every day? Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this has been very helpful because part of the daily challenges, I mean.
You mean of the learning? You mean the learning challenges or something else?
No, the learning.
The life challenge.
What do you mean everyday challenge?
Well, the everyday challenges is the negativity that surrounds us all the time. So negativity of news, negativity of what's going on in the world around us. To some
Toxicity.
extent, the way you said that you felt the challenge as you were trying to write and stumbling blocks were put in front of you of various kinds. Well, to think of everything is for the good and everything is going to be good in the end, that's a positive thing that's constantly being challenged every day with the bad stuff that's around us. So the ability that I think I got a better ability now than I did before of transcending that, of breathing in and saying this oxygenated air I'm getting now is God coming in.
Nice.
And breathing out, it's still God around us. And the things that appear to be negative are still good. They're still coming out. Whether we see it today or we'll see it next month or next year, it doesn't matter. It's still good. I think all of the stuff we've learned helps channel the meditation in that direction. To see that everything is good all around, and to see that everything is all God. Everything is all
Beautiful,
God.
Andy. So you feel like you're challenged to be able to discover the new horizons. You're given the tools. To be able to rise to those horizons, and that's really what this discourse is about. That's why it's broken up into such granular detail. Like Warren says, the analogies, the metaphors, the parables are there to be able to allow us to sink our teeth into something, to take it home, to chew it over, to think about it, and to give us the tools to rise higher. I thank you all for your very meaningful comments. Winston is saying that Daniel, the truck driver, you have to stay strong, said this 30 minutes ago. Thank you, Rabbi, for all the lectures, keeping me with words of Torah throughout my travels. Thank you. That's fantastic. Elaine says, another thought in Marty's lost book, the chassid who lost his notes for the shofar blowing. He blew directly from the heart. You know the story of the chassid? It's a beautiful story. He lost his notes, his meditation notes, so he had no choice but to blow from a broken heart. You remind her of that story. In any event, I want to conclude over here, guys. I want to thank you all for helping me on this beautiful journey, and we're taking the world on now. We all are taking the world on now. We wrote this together. We're sending it out to the world. We'll hear the feedback, God willing, tonight as we release it. And I'm excited about where this is going. So thank you very, very much. I'm more than anything connecting to the spirit of my grandfather, Rabbi Gershon Mendel Gorelik, whose soul is being elevated today as his yahrzeit right now. They're actually on the Mount of Olives right now as we speak in Jerusalem for his yahrzeit. And to know that our Zayda was a true chassid, a person who lived by these values. When the Rebbe told him to go to Italy in 1959, he said, okay. And he'd gone on a plane and he went. He didn't speak no Italian, no English. It didn't matter. He just went. And he lived an incredible life of shlichus over 60 years. Over 60 years of Nasiv and Ishma, of I will do, and then I will understand. Total devotion, no questions asked. And it's in his elevation of his spirit that we publish this book and dedicate the book to his memory. So may his soul be elevating Gan Eden from this beautiful experience and from all of our elevation. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll resume next week, God willing, bigger and better. And the rest of the week, I'm sure Rabbi Uzvalk will be teaching, and we'll take it from here. So thank you very much. Shalom, and have a wonderful day.